Hey, Tom, good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty darn good, dude. I'm in the U.S. Virgin Islands, coming to you live through the internet today.
Yep, the internet is bringing Tom from St. Thomas, correct? St. Thomas in the Caribbean?
Yeah, I came down because I thought they might have named it after me, but it turned out it was a Bible guy. They went with the Bible guy.
Awesome. So Tom Cody, wonderful co-founder, co-owner of Top 20 Training, getting some wonderful rest, rejuvenation with his son Dylan in St. Thomas. And I, Kevin Brennan, co-owner as well, am getting some rest and rejuvenation in St. Paul, Minnesota. A different saint,
Well,
different view outside, right?
they're both great saints. They were like top
Yeah.
10 saints,
Oh yeah.
but the destinations are just a tad different.
Yeah, just a different. When I look out my window, I see the lawn and the spots where my dog has dug holes, and you see crystal clear blue, which is
I would I would
which
do
is
this
good.
podcast outside, but the waves crashing on my beach
Yeah,
would
and I
be distracting to people.
and I want to thank you for that because you know how particular I am about ambient noises not
Yeah,
getting in the way of our message.
sound quality.
So I was thinking, our team at Top 20 Training, we put a lot of emphasis and a lot of time and a lot of conversations into culture and climate in the school with the end goal of learning. We're educators, we want learning to happen. And when I think back to my first year as a classroom teacher, like an official posting, meaning when I got hired and I was contracted, it was my classroom, my space. I remember looking in at this sea of sophomores I was a high school English teacher, as you know. A sea of sophomores were looking at me, and I remember having the thought, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm supposed to teach. And yes, I created a lesson plan, but I'm supposed to teach right now. They've been sent to me to learn. And I'm like, well, I went to school, I graduated, I did student teaching, I did the volunteer stuff, I did all sorts of stuff, but now I'm in it. And I realized I had no idea what to do. And this is what I said in my head in that moment. I said, Kevin, make them like you until you can learn how to teach. And and what I realized that did is it the make them like you really translates or could be translated into build rapport. I started saying hi to kids. I started greeting them at the door. I started building relationships, and my classroom became a place where kids really wanted to come. They wanted to come say hi before school, after school. They wanted to hang out during lunch. And these relationships I built, authentic relationships, not fake ones. Like I truly wanted to know what was going on in their world. I truly wanted to know what was going on in their lives. I found out after the fact that by building those relationships and spending time doing that in the front end allowed me the space to drop Shakespeare on them because I was English teacher, world lit. I need to get through A Midsummer Night's Dream. I need to have them write an analytical essay. And I found naturally, beautifully, they were willing to play once it came time to get the assignments, get the books out. And had
Yeah.
I gone to, okay, you have just studied for 4 years, you know how to craft a lesson plan according to what the school I just graduated from says, you know all about ed psych, you know whatever teachers are being prepared to do, which is good, but it's not enough. Just do that and everything will be fine. No, it would have been a bad deal because I would have put all my shoulder into teaching rather than learning, which is something I learned from you. You always ask me, "Hey, Kev, is it more important to put your eye on teaching or learning?" So I found that as a gift, and I try to tell as many young teachers as I can build that relationship so they want that space to be their own, and then learning just happens. And I'm curious for you, Tom. You stepped out of the classroom after 40 years. Uh, obviously, obviously you have a love of relationships with kids, and I'm just curious about what you saw over the 40 years, maybe how you started the game versus how you
Yeah.
ended it. What can you share with us about relationships and education?
Well, first of all, if you're an educator and you're listening today, you're kind of, I hope you're still with us after 5 minutes because you're kind of like, duh. You got to have a relationship. The kid's got to trust you, and there's got to be an energy of positivity for the kid to learn. But we're going to do a deeper dig in this half hour. We're going to kind of look at what's at the root of this, uh, and really get into the big why, because everybody knows that you got to start with the kid, the student first. And if they buy into what you are, then they'll buy into what you do. In Top 20, we talk about you got to do the human being before the human doing. Before the third graders color and learn the sound of a K or an L, they got to know they're okay first. We got to greet them as human beings, you know. So my path is way different than Kevin. Yours, my path was I was all about teaching in the first 2/3 of my career. I was my deal with kids was sit down and shut up. I mean, that was the relationship because and I'm not going to defend that with my era and it was tough then and you know you're a tough guy. That was a little bit the case, but it was mostly what was going on inside of me is I was not sure I was going to be okay in the classroom. Like almost all you teachers listen to this, you're never sure if you're okay. It's a maddeningly difficult job.
Not sure if you're okay as a teacher, like good enough.
Is this okay? Am I good at this? Am I terrible at this? Because somebody told me when I was 23 that teaching is a series of 10,000 decisions a day that increases the probability that learning will take place. That's all you do is increase the probability. You never really know if they're learning. And 10,000 decisions, that scared me when I heard that. So I got to be tough guy. I was like, sit down, you're tardy. You know, you get a 0 on this. You're going to summer school. That was my thing. And it was all about teaching to me. It was never about the learning. It was about me. It was about me. Look, I'm funny. I'm strict. I'm tough guy. I'm in charge here. Well, if we really want to get into it, let's feed my weak ego. Let's feed my lack of self-esteem with you perform for me. And then I feel good because your scores are high. You play basketball for me and we win 7,000 games in girls basketball. And that fed my need to be accepted. You know,
how'd that go when the scores were low in your classroom? Let's say a kid bombed it. How'd that go for you?
Well, how about your wife, Gina? I mean, you can't make it in there. That's a reflection of me. This wasn't about Gina.
Right.
Gina's famous story was she took my class for 11 minutes and then dropped it because, you know, I told her this isn't for you. I don't need another D-, C-, whatever on my grade book. And you're a lot of work and I got to help you. I mean, it was teaching. I was all about teaching.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the learner, you know?
Yep. For those of you that don't know Gina is my wife, and she went to school at the school we both taught at, but she's older than me. Don't worry. And Tom taught her way back in the day before I knew her, and she spent a couple days in the classroom and was like, "Woof, this is I'm no, no."
Yeah,
and Tom also came to her with like, "Hey, what's with these, you know, you're kind of, I'm going to need to work with you a little bit extra for that. What's the deal?" And so, yeah.
How about this one? I got an email about 20 years ago from a guy named Todd. He says, "Hey, Mr. Cody, just to let you know, I just did 2 tours in Bosnia and I had your class. Yeah, Bosnia was better." It's a true story. That's all it said. But that feedback at the time, I remember this kid, and that feedback at the time still hadn't cracked my skull. It was like,
really?
Well, he's this and it's his deal and he's screwed up and blah, blah, blah. But it was just so much about, well, here's what it comes down to as an educator. Are you serving yourself? That's teaching. Or are you serving them? That's learning. And I really mean servant. You have to have a mentality in 2021 of service. I mean, this job is not making, you know, blenders. This is serving the better purpose for the world. We're building a better world every day, and we get paid and we get summers off. I mean, I get all that, but you have to have that servant mentality.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I that came to me in the final 1/3 of my career. I woke up, and that's why we're sitting here talking today. Is things change, you know?
Yeah, and the younger grades, relationships are obviously a natural huge thing. Kindergartners are getting hugged, preschoolers are getting hugged, first, second grade. It's a different environment. And you and I were both high school teachers. When kids get to high school, I think high school teachers, I'll speak for myself. I, as a high school teacher, had a tendency to think, well, I got to prep them for the real world. College is next year. This is the craft. I got to have them ready to write these papers. I got to have them rigorously go through these texts. I got to battle. And all of a sudden content became the front runner. And that's what can sometimes get lost in. Then you add on standards, then you add on this and that and the other. It's easy to get lost in the teaching and the content. And like you said, to be a servant, if you ask yourself, what do we really want for these kids when they leave high school? If in America we got pre-K to 12 to have our go with them, what do we really want? Well, if anything, this last year has taught us we want them to be resilient. We want them to be adaptable. We want them to be curious. Goodness sakes, there's never been more of a need for curiosity on the planet than now. And all that gets developed by going to school. But if we lose track of the intellectual muscle and the star qualities that they're going to develop by being with us, and start focusing on the ridiculous nature of the lesson plan and the Madeline Hunter model and this and that. I love the Madeline Hunter model, but you know what I'm saying? If we get fixated on that, we lose track that we're dealing with human beings and we're meant to aid in their human development. You said it, human being precedes human doing. Goodness sakes.
Yeah.
So
you get to high school, it's like playtime's over.
Yep.
Now we're using live ammo. We put the Nerf guns away.
Yeah.
We're let's go. We're keeping score, Kevin. English 9 goes on the transcript. English 9, English 11. Now suddenly ACT, verbal section. Now we're keeping score.
Right.
You know what just occurred to me? I don't have many insights, but rug. We sit on the rug in second grade and do a half hour of how everybody feels. We should be doing that. We should dump the rug in second, haul the rug down to 11th grade. Yeah. Second graders are all fine. Like, how are you feeling? Pretty good.
Yeah.
7, I'm smart. I'm talented. I'm good looking.
Yep.
Now, by 10th, 11th grade, Kevin's got a daughter in 11th, I think.
Yes.
She's freaking out about her hair and stress and self-esteem. We need the rug.
Sure.
We should be sitting on the rug for, and I don't know if half an hour.
Well, right. Well, let's not forget that we need the rug to get to the learning. We're educators. We want them to learn stuff, but let's not forget there's a direct way to get to learning, and that's priming the brain for learning. We have to get them into thrive mode versus survive mode. I mean, it's goodness sakes, just Google it or DuckDuckGo it, whatever you're comfortable doing with it. Just go look for it. And you know that there are certain things you can do to prime the brain for learning. So Tom, let's do that. Let's go your last third of your career in the classroom. What's one small thing you did that helped kids get ready to get to the learning? What's something that worked for you?
It's all about the front end. First of all, you can't spend 48 minutes of your 50 minutes on like rug time. So it's all about trying to be efficient. 2-3 things. One, our big top 20 things, greet them at the door. Like you said, we go hand to hand, eye to eye, name to name, heart to heart. And if you're listening to this, you've probably heard us talk about that. Hey, Kevin, what's going on? Nice soccer game last night. High five. I mean, that changed my whole deal. I got my rear end out of the chair in the hall. And I was really religious about it because you give me a ritual with 4 things to do. And I was like on that.
Yep.
Number 2, first kid into class, first couple would hit their phone and plug into my speaker, and we'd have the music's playing.
Tunes.
And by the way, I'm looking at lyrics there, Joe. No F-bombs, please.
Yeah.
But we got, and the kids were kind of hurried to class to claim the DJ booth, you know. So right. We did a lot of that. We did some stuff. Another thing I did was, as you're coming into the room in kind of a social deal, hey, last night's homework, put anything on the board you want, whether it's you want to show off something, a tough one, or one you have no idea, just go to many steps to where you froze and then fix it. And so the kids were kind of walking around, talking to each other, doing problems on the board. I was doing more teaching, and there was probably more learning.
Yeah. When
I did less teaching, let them go. So that was probably 5, 7, sometimes 8 minutes of class. Sure. Was music's playing. The kids are doing problems at the board. Different atmosphere. Suddenly you're at Walmart. Hello, sir. Welcome.
How are you?
Would you like to find the U-bolts? I mean,
Yeah.
tell them why they're here, greet them, and then on the way out, pop up, fist up, high fives.
Right.
It was
Right.
a completely different deal.
Mm,
I'd have taught your wife in 2006. She'd have said I was the best teacher she ever had.
for sure. For
I'm
sure.
not blowing smoke up my tailpipe here. I'm just telling you, it was easy. I had the craft. See, I had the math.
Yep.
I had the basketball knowledge. I had the stuff. It was just packaged different.
Yeah. Well, and you had to get them ready to be able to accept it, meaning to take it in. I like that. I like what you said about the everyone if you want, put a problem on the board and work through it. 'Cause that's a low stress, low anxiety moment for a kid who's struggling. 'Cause I would have been I struggled in school. A lot of times because I just didn't try. I went to defense mode, survival mode, which was, I'm just not going to try that. That means that's why I'm not getting this. And in that kind of environment, I think I would have been much more comfortable of going up there, trying it out, or at least silently watching to learn. You know what I mean? Because there's something about when the teacher starts and the teacher explains the problem and then says, does everyone understand? And then the class majority says, yes, I understand. They go, okay, let's move on. I'm sitting there like, ugh. And again, I don't blame a teacher for that. As a kid, as an adult, I don't look back to my time in classrooms and blame my teachers. It's definitely a two-way street, but it's just one of those small things educators can do to switch that and create a moment where a kid can have that comfort level of accessing the information. And maybe the informal 7 minutes is the way to go.
Well, when I ask, does everybody get this? And they nod. That is efficient. It's not effective.
Correct.
See, I was all about efficiency, teaching. If you want to be effective, it's learning. Now you have to actually ask non-rhetorical questions like,
yeah.
Do you understand this? Right. And thumbs up, or put a paper over it so nobody can see, or whatever. You can get all kinds of tricks.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. I used to make every kid do 10 somethings at the board every trimester. So you weren't just hiding all that. You got to put something up there, wrong,
Sure.
right, whatever. And I was still struggling because all this A students would get their 10 right away. Then I was pulling teeth with the others. I started giving double points. You get 2 points, not 1, if it was wrong. And that way we'd all fix Kevin's deal. He just put one up because I know I didn't get to the right answer. I looked at the back of the book. It ain't 11 halves. And we'd say, well, we'll fix it for you. Put it up. And then you got 2. And the kid would go, good. So double for mistakes. That is not the old Tom.
No. Very cool. You lived witnessing this for me. So when I was teaching, I had a handful of knuckleheads. I was teaching at a level where I had quite a bit of knuckleheads, which worked well for me because I was a knucklehead in school. I was, getting booted out of class. I was being immature. In my survive mode of not trying, I would inevitably try to make my buddies laugh and I get kicked out. So one of the things as a new teacher that I realized very quickly is there's some kids in my class that want to act up, get squirrely, and I got to do something about it discipline wise. And according to the books of school and the deans, et cetera, you're supposed to toss them, or you're supposed to detention them, write the slip, or just get them out of your space. Like as a teacher, that's like one of the first things you think of. I got to get this kid out of my place or out of my space so I can get to teaching these other kids. But that creates a disconnect when you boot a kid out of the classroom. And sure, there's times you just have to, but when a kid is asked to leave, now you're not teaching them. Now there's a break in the relationship. And the next thing is, guess what? Next day, today's Monday, Tuesday, they're coming back. So then you got to repair and engage again. So I'll do this very quickly. I created something called a debrension. Instead of a detention, my last name is Brennan, I called it debrension. And so when the time came where a kid got 3 tardies, they're supposed to get a detention, or, there's been some kind of acting out in class where it would equal sending them out of my space, I would give them a debrension, and I had different levels of it. And a debrension was this: they would come by my classroom after school, and I would tell them to pick up the garbage, the little waste pan, the little garbage, whatever you call them, container. And then we would walk out into the hallway, and there was a courtyard right outside my classroom. It was an old building in St. Paul. Courtyard outside my classroom, and you could walk all the way around the courtyard in these hallways. And I would walk with the kid, and any scrap of paper, any piece of garbage, the kid would have to pick up. The only thing they wouldn't have to pick up would be Kleenex. I'm kind of a germaphobe, so I was like, no, you're not getting Kleenex. We'll find some way else to pick that up. But we would just walk, and that was a square, you know. And while we were walking, while the kid was picking up, I was chatting with them. I didn't send them off on their own. I would chat with them and just ask them about their life, ask them about the music they like, what are they into, and inevitably, naturally, authentically, we would get to the issue at hand. Like, hey man, why are you late every day? Or you're coming in and you're disruptive right away. What's going on? And we would just talk and have an adult conversation about the why. And then the kid would, through that, understand, okay, this teacher, me, cares about me. He's really naturally, authentically curious about why I'm late or why I'm disruptive or why. And B, he's saying, or it's three, he's saying, you know what? I want this kid to grow. I want to give this kid the opportunity to grow. And then the time in the classroom, we'd finish picking up the trash. We'd get back to the class the next day. It'd be great because the kid knew I cared about him, received a message loud and clear that they matter to me, and they received the message that they belong in my classroom. And I kind of did it on accident, this whole Debrenchen thing, but I found over time some of the toughest kids were just cracking wide open on those walks picking up trash with me, because we'd have the time to really look at what was going on. And I think, again, it's another small relationship piece. It built something. It built trust. It built safety with me and this student. And then they were ready to go in the classroom the next day. Now, certain infractions, obviously, if someone headlocks someone and use their face against the radiator like a cheese grater, that's not just going to get a Debrenchen. We gotta up the level of concern there. But I think there are just creative ways to handle some of the challenging things in school to keep the relationship intact rather than breaking it.
Yeah, and nowadays, that was you 15 years ago doing that. It was genius. But nowadays, that would be called restorative justice.
Mhm.
You're going to fix
Restorative practice, yeah.
You're going to talk about. I mean, there's a fancy name for what you were doing, but the nice part of yours was it was organic. It was just something you did, and it was unique and it was effective. You know, because those kids now don't remember fifth clause of the third declension of the participle.
Right.
They know how it felt to be taught by Kevin, you know, and that's something I wish I could go back and do over for a majority of my career. A word on why this is so important. We said deeper dig. We want to get deeper on this. Parenting. Teachers are like, why do I need to do this? I should just tell the kid to sit down. And well, 2 generations ago, if I got in trouble at school, I came home, my dad like whacked me in the head. That was how it worked, is the parents supported the teachers. That's flipped. Now the teachers have to be supporting the parents. Again, service, service, service. Why? Because Kevin, you are parenting in the most difficult generation ever to be a parent. My parents had it easy, and it was never easy, but relatively easy. They didn't even know where I was 90% of the time. And ever since abductions and sexual harassment, I mean, that's the whole world's flipped upside down.
Yeah.
So now Kevin and Gina have to parent like 24/7, 366 if it's a leap year, and you're on 100% of the time. There's no way right now, Kevin, you don't know where your kids are.
Right.
And so what happens? The school has to step in. We have to start thinking about being more supportive in relationships, in character building, and social emotional learning, because our society has shifted. It's an economic shift. A lot of times both parents are working, or if one parent's working, they're fairly absent because they travel all over the world for work. Parents are in trouble. And that's part of the reason we've had so many problems in America, is the nuclear family has gotten to be kind of shattered at an emotional, moral level. And I think that's where we have to step in as educators and own this, that the relationships at school, well, I'll just say it, that 7 hours might be the best deal Johnny has all week.
Right.
That's 7 hours in sophomore. And maybe it's only 2 hours because he's got Kevin and somebody else. That's the best thing he's got going. And
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to rip on parents here.
No.
You just can't do it all.
Right.
I had both grandkids 2 weeks ago. I wanted to like quit at 2 hours in. I mean, this is maddeningly difficult.
Big
and,
time.
And we have to pick up the slack at school.
Yeah. And
Well,
if
I guess you don't have to, but somebody has to.
if you
Why
go
not
to
us?
if you go to a group of non-educators at the bar or something and you're just chatting away and you tell them, hey, you know what? For a lot of kids across the globe, school is the safest, best place that they love, that they cherish. They're going to be like, what are you talking about? But if you go to a room of educators like we have all across this nation and said, you all know that school, these 7 hours, these 5 days a week are the safest, best times of their life. Every educator's nodding their head because educators understand that school is more than books. School is the comfort zone, but also the place where you stretch and you learn. And you're right. As an educator, you're not just signing up to teach English. You're not just signing up for diagramming sentences. That's not what it is. It's just not what it is. School still looks the same as it did forever ago, which is kind of a problem. But school is not and should not ever just be about this content and the numbers and this leads to this down. Trust me, I have a daughter that's a junior. I'm aware of what a little number on a score mean or on a piece of paper means, what a grade means, what a this list versus that list, headmaster list. I know what all that means. I know what that can get you in regards to college or whatever. But you better believe I've spent, and my wife and I, both of us spent so much energy talking to our daughter and our children about what school is really all about. And they get it. And that's why they love school, because they don't go there to think this is just something I'm doing to learn anatomy. No, they know that they're developing as humans to be ready for the next phase of life, whatever that is. And they're getting it out of school. See, we got to start telling kids, I'm going off on a tangent here, but we got to start helping kids understand what school is all about.
Yeah, but your kids are growing up in a house where their dad is a top 20 training social emotional teacher and author and trainer. I mean, duh, they're going to get it because you're going to spend the 20, 30 minutes at night talking about persistence, diligence, grit. But most homes, 95% of the homes have no clue. And dad's just trying to be a dad. And the kid didn't come with a manual like the blender has one. I mean,
right.
You're just faking it, you know? And so I think we have to start thinking about how we're going to be with kids if we're going to turn this thing around. And the negativity and the divide in America right now, it's got to start in the schools. Also, the keep and score. I want to say this once more before the podcast ends. It's not a problem selling this to elementary teachers. They know their deal is reading and arithmetic, but they know, because why? We're not keeping score then. Middle school, little different, not much. Really, the scores don't matter. If you're taller, you go to high school. You know, you just get bigger and they let you go. I mean, the grades don't really matter there. No offense. Hope no middle school kids are listening to this podcast. And then high school, we start suddenly, boom, scoreboard.
Yep.
Here we go. Target field, Minnesota. We're going to keep score now. Well, then all kinds of bad stuff happens to relationships. So again, we got to do something about national standardized testing. We got to do something about grades. Today, we're not going to solve that in 30 minutes, but we got to do something about it. And before we go, it's May, whatever it is. I'm in the islands. I don't know what day it is. It's May, whatever this podcast is. And as you leave school this year, you probably got 2 weeks left, 3 maybe, 4 if you're in a tougher shape. But as you leave, what are the relationships going to be as you leave? Is it really going to be a 7-page final with the big staple through it, and the kid gets halfway through the final, the bell rings, and that's the end of your school year? That is a stupid way to end the year. You're ending with human doing. Try to end with human being. Donuts, I don't know. Popsicles, they cost about 2 cents each. Something, maybe just best thing you learned all year that had nothing to do with the content. Something, but let's finish with some sort of relationship that last day, that last 20 minutes. if you have to, give the final the day before. I'm a big on. We need a different ritual to end the year. We start the year with a ritual. We do something. Even the worst teachers do something fun the first day.
Icebreaker.
Not icebreakers, but at the end of the year, we tend to just dump a final and say goodbye. I'm locking my door. See you later. Kid maybe gives you the finger from the car and honks at you. And that's the way. That's the way you want to finish the year.
Right.
So a big push for you educators: finish with something positive and relationally building something around human development.
Yep.
There
I love it. I love it. I don't know who said it. Someone famous or someone not famous said, no one ever remembers what you said, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
So let them know. Let them know. I love it. Thanks, Tom. Enjoy your time in St. Thomas. I'm going to enjoy my time in St. Paul, and we'll see you soon.
Hey, our next podcast is, again, we don't know. So pay attention. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, or like us, whatever you do on Facebook. But we'll see you next time.
Do the social media stuff. Subscribe to this podcast. That's what we want, among others. And share it. See ya.